everyone, and welcome to Food with First Lady. We're doing a little work today for our new cookbook and sessions, which are called The Gift of a Good Meal. So what we're going to do is to prepare some things for a meal that we might take to someone who needs a meal for any particular reason. So today I'm going to start off by making chocolate chip cookies. Now, everybody has their own specific chocolate chip cookie recipe. Let me tell you about mine. First of all, I've got a half a cup of regular sugar, a half a cup of brown sugar in here. And we're going to mix that, we're going to cream that together. This is my mother's chocolate chip cookie recipe. And my mother's mother lived in Oklahoma, and we would go see her a couple times a year. She would always have cookies for us there, oatmeal cookies, which I did in a previous video, and these chocolate chip cookies. And then when my children were born, and my grandchildren were born, my mom always brought to the hospital. She'd be sitting there in the waiting room with chocolate chip cookies. Of course, they never did any good to those of us who had the baby, but they were good for everybody else who was there. And so I keep these at the house. So what I do is I make up the dough and then I freeze it. I'll show you. All right, so what I've done here is creamed the two sugars, the brown sugar, the white sugar, and the butter. And I'm going to add to that a couple of eggs. These are large eggs at room temperature. And then this is a teaspoon and a half of vanilla. All right? So let me wipe that down just a little bit. And we're going to continue to cream that together till it's fluffy. All right? So there we go. I can't tell you how many of these chocolate chip cookies I have made. I've got a couple grandchildren here with me today, and all the grandchildren know that Mama Lou, that's my name to them, Mama Lou keeps chocolate chip cookie dough balls frozen in the freezer at all times, don't I, guys? Yeah. Lucy? Yes. Sometimes they like to eat them frozen. You like to eat them frozen? Watch out.
Don't make me have a breakfast. I never do that.
Yeah. And then I can pull them out at any time and cook them for people. But what we're going to show you today is how to freeze them. And cookies are best when they're hot, when they're cooked the first day. The second day they lose a little bit; they're not quite as crisp. So we like to keep balls so that we can just cook them fresh and just eat them right then. All right, so I've got my butter, my two kinds of sugar, vanilla, and I don't know, I put something else in there. And now all we have to do now is just add the flour. So I've got right here 2.5 cups of plain all-purpose flour. I put it in my bowl. All right. Shake, 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 right, guys?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Make sure your baking soda is fresh, because if it's not, cookies won't rise. And then 1 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to take my whisk and whisk that together. All right. Let me turn this down to, let's see, what does it say there? Stir. We'll turn it down to stir. Little at a time, I'll add my dry ingredients that are all mixed together. If you put them in there all at one time, well, you can see a little poof there where that's poofing. Do you see how it's poofing, guys? All right. There we go. That's the rest of it. And then what Mama Lou likes to do is I just give a little, try to get it off the sides. I do this. Just for a minute. Now you can stir the chocolate chips in. This is 2 cups of chocolate chips, semi-sweet. Or you can, that's it. Or you can use, if you like milk chocolate better, or.
Oh my goodness.
I know. So that's it. And what we'll do, now today, I forgot my cookie scoop. What I do is I take a cookie sheet, just line it. I just use paper, wax paper, I like that. Just take a cookie scoop, put it on this wax paper. I'll line it completely with cookie dough balls. I'm just going to do one more here. All right, so I'll do this, put this in the freezer until it's completely frozen. And then when it's completely frozen, I'll take it out, put it into a Ziploc bag, put the Ziploc bag in the freezer. If I didn't know or didn't remember how to cook it, I'd put the instructions on the outside. And for the purposes today of taking this to somebody, I would take cookie dough balls to somebody right on the outside of the Ziploc bag, 375, cook for 8 to 10 minutes. The way I cook these is I'll put them in for 8 minutes, 375. I check them to see, sometimes they're more done than other times. Then usually I turn them around because usually it cooks stronger in the back of my oven as opposed to the front. I'll turn them around, put an additional 2 minutes out, take them, they're great. So, y'all enjoy. Hey guys, LuAnne Ford here with Comforting Chicken Soup. This is for somebody who's sick. I've made this, I can't even tell you, hundreds of times because it is comforting. I'll tell you more about it later. I've got 8 cups of plain water here. I've got 8 cubes, chicken bouillon cubes. I'm going to go ahead and put those in there and let those come to, go ahead and melt in there. All right, let me tell you about this. So, my dad, being a preacher and a Bible teacher and all, I've been around a lot of preachers, a lot of missionaries. Well, this lady that graduated from Blue Mountain College, her name is Rose, and she was a friend of our family. And she was a missionary to somewhere up north, I can't remember where, here in the United States. And so she had a newsletter. And she would send out a newsletter once a month. And in one of those newsletters, she sent this recipe for comforting chicken soup. All right, so let me just pause that story for a minute. Okay, now my stuff is, my bouillon cubes and water are melting. All right, I have here a 16-ounce bag of noodles. I need 12 ounces. So I'm just going to eyeball what would be 12 ounces, and I'm going to stick it in there. All right. Hey Siri, set a timer for 8 minutes. All right, we're going to boil this for 8 minutes. I'm not going to keep you on the line for 8 minutes, but while this is boiling, I'll tell you this. First of all, since this is a soup, I didn't get the wide egg noodles. I got the medium egg noodles. I think they're mediums. Yeah, they're mediums or the small. But you really do need to use egg noodles because this is chicken noodle soup. So back to my story. So Rose sent out this newsletter every month. And in one of the newsletters, she sent this recipe for comforting chicken soup to my mom. I was still a kid, probably in high school at home. Anyway, my mother started making it, and I have made it, I can't tell you the groups I've made it for. One reason that it's so good is that it tastes good. The second reason is children like it. It doesn't have any vegetables so they can see. Like there's no carrots in it, or you could add carrots to it. There's no celery. You could add celery to it. You can add any kind of vegetable to it. But this particular recipe doesn't call for any of those things. And it truly is comforting. So I'll be back with you guys in 8 minutes, and we'll finish the soup up. Okay, guys, we have gone 8 minutes. I just always set the timer for 8 minutes on my noodles. Now remember, what I have in here is broth made with the chicken bouillon cubes. You could use regular broth if you had homemade broth. I've done that many times too. But we're just working with pantry staples here. All right, so I'm not going to drain it. I'm going to turn it down, and I'm going to add the rest of the ingredients, which are 1 cup of sour cream. 1 cup is 8 ounces. 2 cans of cream of chicken soup. Now, we're all on a healthy kick. And I've got a recipe that I can make homemade condensed cream of chicken soup, but I didn't do that for today. But you could use your own for that. And then there's the timer. And then we'll just stir it up. Now I use a whisk. And the reason I use a whisk with this is because sometimes that sour cream wants to lump up. So if y'all can see, look at that cream. Y'all, I'm gonna tell you something. This soup is great. That is it. That soup is done. Now let me just say this. Let me turn that up. Okay. Let me just say this. The longer it sits, the thicker it gets. It's gonna get so thick if you let it sit that that it's going to be like chicken and noodles, which is great too. All right, now what I have here, we're taking this meal to someone. So if I'm taking it to somebody like a family, I'm going to take a bigger container. If I'm taking it to one person, I'll take a smaller container. So let's go ahead and dish this up as if we're taking it to someone. Now, you know, they say that it's proven that chicken soup helps a person get well, that it's good for you. So that's good. Of course, I'd wipe that off. All right, there's a great looking container. This is a 16-ounce container. You can buy it various places. Has a good top on it. You want to make sure that whatever you take it in has a good top that it won't spill. So that's enough for one person. And I'll fill another up. Let me say this also. I cooked, it calls for 3 cups of shredded chicken. I use chicken breast. So I cooked 2 chicken breasts, boneless chicken breasts, to make enough for this. And it really was a little bit more than I needed. However, if you buy a shredded chicken in a can, you could actually do completely from pantry ingredients. And you could just dump that shredded chicken in the can in there. And the only thing you would need that's not pantry would be the sour cream. But anyway, this is your, for the sick person or for somebody with little kids, the comforting chicken soup. I hope you guys enjoy it. Hey guys, back here with Food with the First Lady, and we are making some caramel cake. Now, yes, I know that there are many people who make caramel cake the old-fashioned way, and I love it, and I know you guys do too. Love caramel cake because it's just delicious. So some people take sugar. You can put it in a black skillet and you just turn it on just in a dry black skillet, and you just keep on as it turns brown, and then you add other stuff to it, and that's a great way to do things. But what we're doing today on Food with the First Lady is the easy, quick caramel frosting. So generally when I take food to people, it's not something I plan, because someone passes away, go right to the kitchen and start cooking. Or you hear somebody has a baby, you're like, oh, she had that baby today? Or she had it yesterday? I didn't even know. Let me go see what I've got in the pantry. This is made with all pantry ingredients with the exception of a little milk, which most of us have milk. So what we're gonna do first is to take a stick of butter. Now guys, it cannot be margarine. It's gotta be butter. Regular, full fat butter. So what we're gonna do is we take the butter, a half a cup of dark brown sugar, and a half a cup of light brown sugar, and we're gonna bring that in our saucepan to a boil over medium heat. Now I have made this, you know, sometimes I have dark brown sugar, sometimes I don't. Now I do try to keep it for this recipe because it gives a depth of flavor to this caramel because it has more molasses in it than light brown sugar. Now you know that all brown sugar is just molasses mixed with regular white sugar. Now, I have seen videos of people making brown sugar, in a mixer, just putting molasses in with regular sugar. I've never done that, but I'd like to sometime. I guess I would if I lived out in the country where everything wasn't readily available, but it is here. All right, so way we do this, as I said, again, we got a stick of butter and we have a cup of brown, light brown, and half a cup of dark brown. Now, what we're going to do, it's just so quick. We're going to bring that to a boil, and that has it's come to a little boil. I'm going to let it come to a rolling boil here. Yeah, I believe it's about there. Okay, now I'm going to add 1/4 of a cup of whole milk. I have made it with 2% milk, and it does make. But I am making it today. They prefer whole milk. So I put the 1/4 of a cup of whole milk in there. I'm bringing it back to a boil. You see it's on a boil? There it is. See how it's boiling up? Okay, I'm going to take that off the stove, turn my stove off, bring it back. I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla and 2 cups of powdered sugar that has been sifted. Now, very important for the powdered sugar to be sifted so that it won't leave white lumps. All right, so we're going to quickly, this is going to harden quickly. So we're going to quickly stir this with our whisk until all the lumps are gone. Meanwhile, I already made a couple of small pans of cake batter. I divided them into 2 different pans so I can carry this to a couple different people. And look how easy this is, guys. I'm just going to pour this over. Cake number 1 and cake number 2. Now, guys, this is going to harden quickly. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to go around and make sure that covers everything. Now, of course, guys, if it doesn't cover everything, we're good. All right, this is going to cover. I've almost got all of this done. All right, well, let me get this corner, and then I'm almost through with my quick caramel icing. Look at there, right? That little corner needs a little bit. Let's see if we can put this over. I'm almost finished with the caramel icing. There we are. What's that? Oh, that's a little piece of brown from my dark brown sugar that didn't get. There we go. Quick caramel frosting for the next person. Hey everybody, LuAnne Ford here with Northeast Mississippi Community College and Food with the First Lady. Today we are preparing a meal to take to someone, a sandwich meal this time. We're making chicken sliders. So the first thing I'm going to do is take some cream cheese. Now this is cream cheese at room temperature, and I'm going to mix it up. It's already soft, but we're going to mix it up a little bit to make it creamy. To that, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of ranch dressing mix. Now this is the dry mix. All right, I make ranch dressing mix myself, and I'm going to teach you how to do that another time, because these prepackaged stuff we don't really want to use, but we're using it today because that's what we have and that's what we can buy in the store. You can also buy ranch dressing mix in a container, and then you can just dump it in there. Okay, so we're going to take that, plus garlic powder, plus freshly ground black pepper, plus freshly ground onion powder. So we got onion, garlic, pepper, ranch seasoning mix, and the cream cheese. All right, that's soft enough. We are going to take our chicken. This is 4 cups of shredded chicken. Now let me tell you what I did. Of course, now you can buy it in the can and you can drain it. But what we did was, this was 2 boneless chicken breasts. So I put it on the stove and I cooked it with some salt. When it was done, I put it in this very mixer right here, and I turned that beater on and I chopped it up. And look, it's how fine it is. It's very fine. So to this, we're going to add a couple of green onions chopped. If you don't like onions, leave it out, Or if you don't have green ones and all you have is just regular ones, that's fine too. And some chopped bacon. Now guys, we cooked this bacon this morning. This is 6 to 8 slices. Now, if you don't want to do that, you can buy the bacon already cooked, or you could use bacon bits. Or again, if you don't like bacon, leave it out. We're going to put it in there because that adds a kind of a smoky taste to it. We like that. And we're going to mix that together. I'm using my hands, of course. Sorry, guys. Washed those before, but these are the best tools you have. All right, we're going to take this and we're going to mix it with the cream cheese. All right, guys, watch. My grandchildren are with me today. If you hear them around while I'm talking, you'll know. But don't we all have distractions? We do. But that's okay. We've got some nice distractions here. Okay, so this is mixed up. All right, that's our cream cheese mixture and our chicken mixture. Now, what I have here are rolls that I made. Now, I make this sourdough bread, and I need my my serrated knife, the big serrated knife over there. This recipe calls for 12 Hawaiian rolls. I don't use Hawaiian rolls. I use this sweet sourdough that my daughter makes in a round thing like this. And this, of course, is not 12. This is 8. So if I were making this to give to somebody, I would cut up 2 of these. And I would keep them in this round container, and I would give them like that. I'd give 1 to 1 and 1 to somebody else, or if they had a big family, I'd give them both of them. Okay, so I slice those in half. If you buy Hawaiian rolls at the store, like I say, it calls for 12. And I just cut the tops off. Okay, we're going to take, this is 3 cups of mild cheddar cheese. You could use cheddar jack. This is 2/3 of the mixture. That's 2 cups. All right, then we're going to take our cream cheese mixture. Like I said, this is enough for 12 Hawaiian rolls. But right here, I just have 8 rolls. So I'm going to use, and like I said, sometimes I take this, I'll make 2 of these, which is actually 16. So that's half of it. Of course, if you like a lot of meat, put a lot on there. If you don't like that much, don't put that much on there. All right, we're going to spread this out. I don't know if I can do it with a spoon. It's going to be hard. I'm just going to use my hands like I did earlier. Spread it out over the whole thing. That's going to take a little bit of work because the cream cheese is thick. Now, of course, we're going to bake this. We're going to let them bake this later. I like to take this to people unbaked, and let me tell you why. If a catastrophe has happened, or someone has passed away, or someone has had a baby, or there's some occasion for some reason that you have, that you want to take food to somebody, they may have a bunch of other food. Especially when someone passes away, people are quick to get over to their house with food, and they might not need that food right then. They've got so much food they can't even eat it all. So what I do, and what I suggest you do, is to fix your food and take it uncooked. So we're going to do that today. Here is the top. That's pretty big. And we'll need the lid to this. The plastic lid, we'll need that. And I am just going to brush this with melted butter. Now, if you want to, you could put Parmesan cheese. In fact, the recipe calls for Parmesan cheese mixed with this. But today I'm not putting any Parmesan cheese. I'm just going to only put melted butter on it. All right, so there it is. There's our chicken sliders. Here's my lid. Now, we've got some fancy labels that Northeast has fixed for us that say food with the First Lady and what it is. But if it were me and I was at home, I didn't have a label, what I would do would be to just write on there with a Sharpie, bake at 350 degrees for 10 minutes with foil on, then take the foil off and bake it for additional 10 or 15 minutes. Basically just till the cheese melts, because there's nothing raw in here. Of course, well, the cream cheese is raw, but you can eat cream cheese raw. It doesn't have to be cooked. And that's going to melt on there along with everything else. And it's a great thing to take to people. LuAnne Ford here, back with Food with the First Lady from Northeast Mississippi Community College Nutrition Center. All right, guys, I am making blueberry muffins. Now, these are old-fashioned blueberry muffins made with self-rising flour. They're called blueberry gems. My friend Miss Wingo, dear Miss Wingo, Edna was her name. Her husband's name was Otha, and they cleaned our church, among other things. This is Miss Wingo's recipe. It calls for 2 cups of self-rising flour, 1.5 cups of sugar. Anyway, so these are called blueberry gems, but our pastor renamed them. Dr. Jones, our former pastor at our church, I used to make these occasionally for our handbell group, and then when we would have staff meeting right after handbells, I would take the leftover muffins. Well, Dr. Jones loved these muffins, so he renamed them Wingo Wonders after Miss Wingo. So that's what we affectionately call them, is Wingo Wonders. But we love, love, love these muffins. I fix them for Northeast employees at the end of every summer, and it's one of the first ones to go. But it's made with self-rising flour, which is kind of unusual, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute. So I've made a kind of a hole in the middle. This doesn't use a mixer. So I've got the flour and the sugar mixed. So I'm putting in 1/2 cup of vegetable oil or avocado oil, which is better for you. 1/2 cup of regular milk into that hole. Teaspoon of vanilla. And I just took 2 eggs. I just now mixed those up when I first started talking to you guys. And I'm going to dump those 2 eggs in there. All right. So now I'm going to mix that up. Now, we don't want to stir these muffins too much. If we stir them too much, they're going to be tough. Okay, so I'm going to stir them a little bit. Then I'm going to add my blueberries. I use frozen blueberries. And once you add the blueberries, you don't want to stir it too much, because if you do, the whole batter is going to turn purple. All right, so here's a cup of blueberries. They're frozen. Ricky's mother has blueberry vines on her, using my fingers again, blueberry vines on her, at her house. We pick the blueberries. If she doesn't have any, we buy them from someone. But you can use, of course, fresh. I'm using frozen because that's always what I have. We always, if I have to fix muffins for something and I don't have anything else, I'm going to use these blueberry ones. All right, I'm going to take a big cookie scoop. In this instance, I'm going to grab a ice cream scoop, and I'm going to put them in these containers. Now, let's talk about that. These are the only muffins I make. I make tons of muffins. I have a Bible study at my house a couple times a month, and I always make muffins. It's called Monday Morning Muffins and Motivation. So sometimes I make these. Everybody likes these. But I've learned this. These particular muffins will not rise well if you put them right next to one another. You see that I've skipped every other muffin paper, and so that they have plenty of room to rise. The second thing is this. Anytime that now I just learned this is my own personal experience. Anytime that you use self-rising flour in a muffin recipe, you cannot use a regular paper liner because it will stick. Now, I have no idea why. Like a regular cheap paper liner that you buy at the store, you have to use a foil liner, which you can also buy at any store, or these tulip. These are called, we ordered these from Amazon. These are called tulip liners because they won't stick. Now, why? I have no idea, but that's the truth. That's what happens. So I'm just telling you my experience. All right, so there they are. Now, if I was using the foil cups, I'd put less batter in it and it would make more. And then the recipe doesn't call for this. This is what I do. When people get the muffin, I want them to be able to see on the muffin what it is, not to look, oh, there's brown. Wonder what kind of muffin that is. So I want them to be able to see that there are blueberries on top of here. So I always come along later and put blueberries on top. I'm gonna bake this on 350 for 25 minutes or until they're puffy and done. Now, if I had it with me, which I don't, I'd take sanding sugar or regular sugar. I'd sprinkle on the top and it will make the tops glisten a little bit. All right, so let me cook these, and when I get back, I'll show you what they look like. Hey guys, LuAnne Ford here with Food with the First Lady from Northeast Mississippi Community College. So, when a person passes away, normally all kinds of people take food, and that's great. But one thing I like to take to, especially for to a person who's lost a loved one, is breakfast. Because most people don't remember about breakfast. You know, a lot of people bring sweets, they bring other things, but they don't think about breakfast. So I'm like, okay, this is something that I can do. So right now we are making breakfast casserole. This is a casserole many of you make, but I've used this for years. I love it because it can be made ahead. And I can take it to people. I can either throw it together the night before, get up early in the morning and bake it, or I can give it to them for them to bake themselves. And that's what we're going to do today. So I've got 8 eggs, and I beat those up with a fork. I've got a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of dry mustard. Put that all in there. I'm going to whisk that up. All right. To that, I'm going to add a cup of cheddar cheese, 2 cups of milk. I've made it with all kinds of milk. I think it's better with whole milk, but whatever you've got to work. And then a pound of, it calls for hot breakfast sausage. You can use any. You can use the hot, you can use a mild, whatever. So this has been cooked and drained. Now sometimes I do this. On Christmas morning, we always have this. This is something we traditionally have. And but since Christmas is so busy, and the night before Christmas Eve is when we give our presents and all that. So what I'll generally do is to cook the sausage up, put it in a Ziploc bag, put it in the freezer, so it's already done. So then Christmas Eve night, after everybody's already gone to bed, I'll just throw this together. I'll just take that sausage out of the freezer, mix it all up with the other ingredients, and I'm good to go. But today I'm taking this for a person whose loved one has passed away. So instead of doing a 9x13, which the recipe calls for, I'm going to do 2 smaller pans. All right, I've got 6 slices of bread here that I have cubed. I just stacked them up and I cut them one way and then I cut them the other way. So we're going to put this in here. Now you could put it all right here in the bowl, but I usually don't. Usually I just put it like that. I've lost my fork, so let me grab my fork and pull it out. All right, and then all we have to do is to cover these with this mixture. Now, the recipe calls for this to sit overnight. You can do that, or you don't have to do that. You can go ahead and bake it, but it is best if it sits overnight. So I'm going to push this down until all my cubes of bread are soaked in that milk and egg mixture. All right, that's going to swell up as it sits. All right, you can see I need to stir that around a little bit because I've got a lot of my meat right there in the middle. Okay. All right, there we go. Push it down. All right, now I'm going to put a lid on this. And I'm going to put this in the refrigerator. Or I'm going to take it to somebody like this, and on the top I'm going to put the instructions, which is I go see the friend who's bereaved, and I take this to them. I say, stick this in the refrigerator, and then you can bake it in the morning. You can have it fresh, and it'll have the instructions on the top. Just you'll put it in at 350 for 45 minutes. But let me caution you. You got to make sure these eggs are done now. You don't want to serve them undone. So in the middle, it'll get done around the outside first, but be careful that the middle puffs up so it's completely done in the middle. Another thing I found out is this. I could cover this with plastic wrap, push the plastic wrap down onto it, then cover it with foil, put it in the freezer. This actually freezes well. Then you can take it out and you can cook it for yourself whenever you get ready to. So it's a great recipe and we love it. You can also cook, if you want it a little more healthy or bulk up the fiber, you could cook a little spinach and mix spinach in there with it well. So I hope you enjoy the recipe. LuAnne Ford again, back with our meals to take to people, and I have made this again hundreds of times. Miss Elizabeth Curley, longtime friend of ours, now no longer with us, gave us this recipe, would bring it to all the potlucks at the church. What this is just glorified green beans. Many people have their version of this very same recipe. What I've done right here is melted a stick of butter, and to it I have added 2 tablespoons of soy sauce and 1 whole cup of brown sugar. Now guys, listen, if that's too much, I have, you can lessen the amount of, come back here, green bean. You can lessen the amount of sugar, and I have done that, and butter the same. But what I like about this recipe is you can go ahead and cook this right away, or it can marinate. I put this is 4 cans, obviously you can tell that, of green beans. Now, these are good with the whole green beans, but sometimes they're hard to find. These are cut green beans. And I put this in a 9 by 13 pan. But for the purpose of me taking it to people today, they're just not going to eat that many green beans. So I'm dividing this. I'm going to take it to 2 different people today, and that'll be good. All right, so I'm just putting that on there. That's pretty thick, looks pretty thick. But it's going to melt down into there, and it is going to be great. So what I'm going to do, there's a stem in that can of green beans. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this on my counter. Okay, now what I do, I can cook it now, or I can just set it on my counter, room temperature, and just leave it out all night. That's what I do. But I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to go ahead and take it to somebody. Now, we put bacon on top, and of course this bacon has not been cooked. This is just raw bacon. You can put as many bacon or little bacon slices as you want to on the top, or just leave the bacon off. I like the flavor because as it bakes, the flavor is going to just melt down into there. Sometimes I have bacon left over from breakfast, and when I do, I put it in the freezer. And so when I make this, I take it out of the freezer already cooked, and I crumble it up and put it on the top. I do that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this to somebody. And on the top, I have instructions. And what the instructions say is to bake this at 350 for 30 minutes or until bubbly. Because like we said, everything is cooked except for the bacon. So what's going to happen is at the end of that time, the bacon is probably going to be cooked but not crisp. So the instructions are to turn the broiler, if you are using raw bacon, turn the broiler on and let the broiler crisp up that bacon. All right. So then I take it out. I take my kitchen scissors. You've got your strips of bacon that are now done, and I just take my cooking scissors and I just don't even take them out. I just chop them up like that and serve it. Great. Everybody loves these green beans. Enjoy them. So today we are continuing our series on taking food to people. So today this is an anytime food to take to anyone at any time, and we're going to start with some meatloaf. I love meatloaf. My husband likes meatloaf. He likes to eat it. He likes to have it Later, after we eat it fresh, he likes to have it for a meatloaf sandwich after it gets cold, after a day, the next day or whatever. Meatloaf is great. Some people don't like meatloaf. We, however, like it. We love it. So the first thing I'm going to do is to cook the topping. I have some ketchup, Worcestershire sauce, ketchup, and I'm also going to add some vinegar to that. So here's some vinegar. And while that's cooking, we're going to go ahead over here and we're going to mix up our ground chuck. So let's do that. So I've got my ground chuck in here. What I'm going to use as a binder is oatmeal because the person that I'm fixing this for is gluten-free. These oats are gluten-free. So what I would normally do would be to mix these, you could use breadcrumbs, or what I'm using here is oatmeal. I'm going to put water in with that. What I normally do is use oatmeal and milk. But this person that I'm taking this to is gluten-free, so instead of milk, I could use almond milk or soy milk, but I'm going to use water, and I'm going to soften those oats right here. Now I could also use breadcrumbs, but like I say, they're gluten-free, so I don't want to use breadcrumbs. I'm going to use this oatmeal as a binder for my meatloaf. Okay, I'm going to also add, I forgot to add my brown sugar. All this, guys, is on the recipe, and you'll see that goes into my sauce as well. Let me stir that up. I think I finally have everything in there. So it is ketchup, brown sugar, vinegar, and a little Worcestershire sauce. So that's going to come to a boil while I am working on the rest of this. Okay, to my meatloaf, I am adding some ketchup. Get that out of there. I'm going to also add some salt. I am also going to add some pepper. And then I'm going to add the softened oatmeal. Or, like I said, if you chose to use breadcrumbs, we would add that. And then some onions. Now, I know some people don't like onions. This person that I'm taking it to happens to like onions. If they didn't, or if I didn't know, what I think that I would do would be to just put onion powder in it, or just leave it out. There's no way to mix up your oatmeal, your meatloaf without using your hands. There is just no way. Right before I came on camera, I washed my hands behind me in the sink so they could be clean in order to do this. There's just no way. You got to continue to work and work and work until you get those breadcrumbs or the oatmeal mixed into your ground beef. Now I use ground chuck. Okay, ground beef is going to have so much fat. It's going to be swimming with fat. If you use ground sirloin, it's going to be, to me, it's too much lean, and it just doesn't taste good. To me, ground chuck is the happy medium for this. All right, so I'm going to put it in my loaf pan that I purchased to take to them. All right, now what someone taught me to do, and what I have done is this. Okay, so I've got it in there. I'm going to put the topping on it, but I take these 3 fingers and I poke holes in it like that so that my topping, when I put it on there, won't roll off. Okay, I'm going to come back in a minute as soon as my topping gets done and it comes to a boil, and I'll show you how to finish this off. So I've got my meatloaf. Remember, I made indentions in it. I went ahead and cooked my topping, which is brown sugar, vinegar, Worcestershire sauce, and ketchup. And I let it cool just a little bit to thicken up. This is what really makes it. I'm just telling you. This recipe came from my sister-in-law, Karen. She's married to my brother, Philip. They live in Mobile, Alabama. We did a family cookbook many years ago, and this was her recipe. She grew up in Florence, Mississippi, and I think this was in a cookbook from her church. Okay, Now, what I would do with this, if I was going to freeze it at my house, I'd put this in the refrigerator, let it become hard, put plastic wrap on the top of it, then put foil around it, and then put the information on how to cook it on top. If I was taking it to somebody, I'd do the same. I would not put any top on it right now. Why? Because that top is going to, the top is going to stick to the top of that, and then when they take the top off, it's going to come off. So I'd put this in the refrigerator first to make sure everything is thicker, and then I would put the foil on it. I'll just tell you what I do. I put plastic wrap on it, then I put foil on it, and then I stick it in the freezer. And then if somebody passes away or somebody's sick or my daughter's having a baby, I take whoever's pregnant in our house, they get a meal from me once a week. I just take it frozen. And I just say, okay, what have I got? What have I got in the freezer? Oh, I got a meatloaf. You want meatloaf? Yeah. And I'd take it to them. I hope you guys enjoy this.